Welcome to the Heartlight Sessions, a podcast about light working your way through dark times. I'm Janae Halstead. I'm a singer-songwriter, holistic vocal coach, intuitive guide, and plant medicine facilitator. I'm also a survivor of childhood abuse, autoimmune issues, and my 30s. I'm on a lifelong healing journey, and along the way, I want to share the ideas and teachings that rock my world. Every week on Heartlight Sessions, I call in artists, healers, and thinkers to explore what's helped them live and thrive from a heart-centered place. Because the heart, it's where the best things happen. If you've ever wondered how to unlock your biggest breakthroughs or how to come back from that stuff that tried to kill you, you know the stuff I'm talking about, the stuff that's supposed to make you stronger. Or if you've ever wondered how to just do you straight from the heart, you're in the right place. So join me, won't you? Let's turn on that heart light. Turning on my heart light. 1,000 volts of sunshine. I am thrilled today to have Dr. Elsa Field with me. She's a PhD scientist in ecology, a priestess of Avalon and Sacred Sound, a devotional musician, and she also is the founder of the Myrtle Grove Mystery School, which helps women awaken their divine feminine voice and their sacred sound and to walk the path of the sound priestess. Thank you so much. Did I miss anything? Thank you for being here.
I don't think so. I think you covered everything.
Okay. And I took your sonic mastery course this year, and it was so powerful and so helpful. And it got me on the path. I had bought Logic Pro during the pandemic and just sat with it and was like, I don't know, I'm overwhelmed by tech and everything, and bought a bunch of, bought a sound card, all this stuff. And then I just finally I had been following you, and then I saw your sonic mastery course, and I was like, okay, I gotta do this.
Oh, that's so beautiful to hear, Janae. It sounds like it was, one of those perfect cases of just the right timing for what you needed. So I'm so happy that it supported you to kind of overcome that overwhelm with the tech and get started. And hey, you're doing this incredible podcast.
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing this podcast if it wasn't for Sonic Mastery. And I just absolutely love you and Jerome and your teaching style and your chemistry. It's so fun and so beautiful. And it just has the course has just the right feminine touch. I had been on YouTube. I was kind of overwhelmed. There was a lot of dudes on there, and you know how it goes. And I really appreciated there was a intuitive approach to it that I really appreciated. Thank you.
I'm so glad that, the way it was transmitted was supportive. Yeah. So that's an offering that my partner Jerome and I collaborate on. He's like the music super producer, has been doing it for 20 plus years. And I love to teach and organize and kind of get everything together. So we collaborate on that to produce that offering for musicians and sound healers.
You guys are funny.
So grateful for your feedback.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk today. Let's kind of go just 101 and break it down. Can you describe for the audience what a priestess is and what that path is?
Absolutely. So the priestess path is a really unique path for each one who steps onto it. It is a devotional calling to step into your leadership as a woman, to step into your spiritual leadership specifically. So it's really a calling of the heart. I like to describe it as becoming a spiritual way shower. So the priestess initiation, as I understand it and interpret it, and why it's so radical, is because it is a leadership role. You're priestessing yourself, yes, your own healing, but you're also stepping forward as a leader to support others in a ceremonial sense for whatever it is that you're guided to bring through your higher self, your priestess self. So in the language that I would use higher self and priestess self interchangeably. For me, it's just another term for the same kind of soul energy that you're invoking.
Love it.
And through that cultivation of your priestess self, your sacred service in the world is activated and opened up. So it's a nuanced difference between saying I'm a healer, or I'm a holistic therapist, or it's the priestess path is this nuanced layer of bringing in that devotional element and often a ceremonial element as well. We're creating sacred rituals and ceremonies that invoke a universal connection to the divine. So another reason why it's so radical is because it is an invocation of a very ancient path that women have played throughout history, herstory, as I like to call it. And we know about the existence of ancient priestesses in many, many cultures around the world. And so this is a modern day reclaiming that's happening now among women's spiritual movement, is to embody that archetype once more and reinvent it for our modern world and our modern needs. So yeah, that's how I would describe it.
So how did you end up on this path? I mean, I know you were a scientist of ecology. So what was it that all of a sudden made you decide that you had to totally change your life and go down this path?
You know, it's interesting, Janae, because if we'd been having this conversation a year ago, it would be actually very different. I actually have gone back into science now at this point. I do some research on the side and collaborate with some colleagues still, because I realized that these two sides of me were not separate. They're really inseparable. And my approach to spirituality, and I think this is one of the ways that my teachings are quite unique, is that I'm always blending those two worlds of the scientific and the spiritual. And so, yeah, essentially, I was a PhD student at Oxford University, you know, on this quite like high-flying path towards academia. I really thought that was what my career would be, that I would be a research scientist, because I have that kind of analytical mind and I just have a quest for knowledge. You know, I think a lot of spiritual seekers have that quest as well. And indeed, you know, the first scientists were some of the most spiritual people of their day. They were the philosophers of their day, right?
Yes.
So I was on that track, and ever since my teenage years, I'd always had this calling to the goddess. And I think, like a lot of folks, you know, it was a quite solitary path. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of pagan and Wicca books, kind of trying to find my place in it. And then when I was about, I want to say like 2021, I visited the Glastonbury Goddess Temple for the first time. That was 9 years ago now. And when I stepped into that sacred space, I felt this instant homecoming come over me. It was this just incredible moment where I realized that there were spaces in the world where just the goddess was revered. So up until that point, I'd always had this kind of slight issue with the dual nature of a lot of neo-pagan spirituality, like categorizing things as masculine or feminine.
Right.
It just didn't really align with my own spiritual experience of God, goddess consciousness being this all-one presence. And when I went into the goddess temple for the first time, that was the homecoming to the cosmic womb of the mother. And I experienced so much healing just from that point onwards. And, you know, the quest for knowledge, I wanted to take part in as many things as I could. And I undertook a 3-year priestess training that was being offered at the goddess temple. And my life just completely changed. All of the things that had been important to me in the past kind of dissolved because I knew that I'd actually found what my true calling was, which was to serve the goddess in this lifetime and be part of that movement. And what I came to then realize is that my gift, my way in which I'm called to serve is through my voice and through sound. And we can talk more about that. But, you know, I believe that this priestess path calls to each one of us very individually. So some of us have a calling to sacred music and sound. I think both of us have that shared resonance, right? Others, it might be, you know, sacred sensual practices, tantra, the priestess of love, that side of the goddess that they're bringing forward. Or it might be sacred dance and movement and expression that they support people in, or that is their sacred service and offering. And so it's so unique, right? But that was my calling.
So the blue path, or the blue robes and tradition, what does that stand for as far as a priestess path?
I'm super curious why you're calling it the blue path. I mean,
I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah, I was thinking of like the red path, which is the Magdalene lineage. Am I correct?
Well, the red path, I believe there are also some strands of Native American tradition that use that term as well.
Got it.
So I've heard it in different contexts. I mean, I know what you mean when you say blue path, but you're actually the first person who said that to me, which excites me.
Interesting. So what do you call it?
So I would call it the Priestess of Sound lineage.
Okay.
But it is definitely the blue path. Because this is the path of the throat chakra, the color of which is blue. And we're working with teachings from the sonic masters, the 7 Hathors, who are the emanations of the goddess of sound that humanity has been working with for millennia and millennia, you know, long before we even gave them that name. And so, yeah, as you'll notice if you step into my world, I work with this frequency a lot of the color blue because it really attunes us with that ancient frequency of sacred sound. And it's my belief that this lineage that you just spoke of, that blue path, I feel it's the most universal priestess lineage that there is. Because in the ancient caves, in the ancient stone temples and megalithic structures, these structures are built for sound.
Right.
Sound is that natural healing medicine that we've always had. And we know from historical and archaeological evidence that women played a really important part in those ceremonies and rituals. So this is my topic of passion and research that I love to share about.
Wow. Have you been to Malta or any of the underground sacred sites?
I have. I visited Malta last year and visited the Hypogeum. Have you been there?
No, I haven't. I've read about it, and I'm really into Tom Kenyon, who I believe did quite a few sound recordings in the sites around Malta.
Amazing. Yeah, he's an incredible way shower of this path. And yeah, I mean, definitely go to Malta. It's, for anyone listening who hasn't been, basically there was an ancient Neolithic civilization there that built the largest and the earliest and largest stone structures that we know of that humanity has built. And they're built all over the island, and there's quite a lot of research that shows they're aligned to Sirius, the dog star, which is also associated with Hathor in ancient Egyptian legend as well, interestingly. And they also built these underground temples, like we were just speaking about, which are attuned to that God frequency, as they call it, which resonates at the same frequency in several Neolithic sites around the world. So yeah, it's an incredible place to go. It is very controlled. Like, you know, I have asked for permission to do things there. And these days it's very difficult.
Really?
So, and yeah, we have to enjoy the recordings that we have because it's such a sensitive environment in there.
Got it.
They have to really control the numbers of visitors that go. But yeah, it's an amazing experience to go.
Can you talk about Hathor, the goddess, and her role in ancient Egypt and the role that she is playing now?
Of course. So, you know, again, there are many interpretations of this. And actually, I got a question recently really asking me, you know, I hear many different things about Hathor, who she was, what is the truth, you know, what is the reality? And I think it's about resonance with what you know to be true. And, you know, personally, I'm just going to go and say it. I don't believe that Hathor walked the earth as a human. Some people believe this, that she's an ascended master.
Interesting.
I believe that she is a goddess consciousness that created and birthed all of life. You know, other people might call that essence by another goddess name. But what I know from my research and my meditation with Hathor is that we each embody her. So it's very possible that throughout history, there were women such as Queen Nefertari, the wife of Ramses II, who was a high priestess of Hathor, who really embodied her energy on this planet and may now be ascended beings. But Hathor herself is this incredible cosmic consciousness that, for me, really she represents the cosmic womb of all life. And I say that because she is one of the oldest goddesses in the ancient Egyptian pantheon. And even before she had a name, you know, we know that people in that part of the world were worshipping the cow goddess. We know that from the wall art that they created, from the totem figurines that were created. So she is an ancient goddess of fertility and creativity. And because she is associated with sound as well, she shows us that sound is this really powerful tool we have to create and shape our reality. So you asked me what you felt her role was in today's world, and I really feel that's why she's coming back into our consciousness, is because so many of us are awakening the power of our voices and our truth and our priestess lineage at this time.
I'm curious if you would like to share a little bit about your initiation in the Temple of Dendera in Egypt. I know you had already been on your priestess path for a while, correct?
So I had been on my priestess path for about, when did I go to Egypt? 3 years ago? I think I'd been on my path of the priestess for about 7 years at that point. So I was already an initiated priestess of Avalon and very much on my path as a sound priestess, created a lot of music, a lot of courses supporting people with their voice and awakening their sacred sound. And I began reading about Hathor, and it was like so many elements fell into place for me in my devotional practice. And I realized her importance and her calling to me. And that was when I said to Jerome, my partner, we have to go to Egypt. I don't want to wait anymore. Like, we're going next month.
I love it.
So we went, and I had 2 beautiful experiences in the Temple of Dendera, which was the center of her worship in ancient Egypt. And the temple that's there now is around 2,000 years old, but we know that that site was active for many millennia before that.
Yeah.
And I mean, this temple it's so many things. It feels like when you walk into the temple, you realize it's a Stargate portal, very much connected to the cosmos. I mean, that's where they found the famous Dendera zodiac depicting the signs of the zodiac that's now in France. They took it from the temple, really tragically, but it is very connected through so many dimensions. And I think the biggest thing that I received there when I visited, because I received different initiations in different Egyptian temples, because they're all so powerful. In Dendera, it was this connection to the goddess of love, fertility, and the womb, because this is the other aspect of Hathor, is she's a womb goddess. You know, women have been praying to her for millennia to heal the womb, to heal infertility, all of these kinds of things. And it was just so moving to be in that space and just to feel the unconditional love of the Divine Mother. And it was very clear to me when I visited that this path that she was telling me about, this Priestess of Sound path that Hathor was telling me about, needed to be awakened in the modern day.
Wow.
And of course, so much came up for me in that moment about, you know, my worthiness. Who am I to create this course or this training? And it was just incredible to receive that unconditional love and trust from Hathor that my work was worthy of being shared. And I think it's an incredible place to go to pray on your sacred service and ask Hathor to reveal to you what the next layer of devotion is that is in true alignment with your soul's calling in this lifetime. So yeah, a beautiful experience. Hard to put into words, honestly.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So before you were creating courses, were you creating courses around the voice or?
Yes, I'd created several courses and workshops, and I was at this moment where I was in the depths of my own journey of healing my womb and healing my voice, healing my thyroid specifically. The creation of this training, the Priestess of Sacred Sound that we offer once a year, that really supported me on my own healing journey.
Wow.
Because it was that layer of expression that I hadn't yet allowed to come through, which, you know, the thyroid is so much about that, about expressing the unexpressed.
Yes.
So it really, that initiation and visiting those temples in the physical in this lifetime, it elevated so much of my work. And I haven't been back since. You know, I visited twice in that year and I haven't been back since, even though I keep thinking, is it the time to go? You know, should I organize a trip? I've come close many times, but there's always so much to integrate from a journey in Egypt.
Yeah.
You know, it can't be rushed. There are many layers to it.
So could you share a little bit about what that healing looked like for you, including, I know you healed your thyroid through sound and your own devotional practices. Could you speak to how that started to transform and change you? I know you were already a singer, so what was the next step or layer to opening and healing? What did that look like for you?
I think that's such a good question, Janae, because I was already a singer and I was very in touch with my voice. And so when I got my diagnosis of having, you know, I was kind of like I was on this precipice point where I had this autoimmune thing going on, but my thyroid was still just about okay. Yeah. And then over the subsequent months, the levels went way off. You know, I developed, I always forget which way around, hypothyroidism, underactive thyroid, right? Yeah. And so it was a massive shock to me because I was kind of very confused as to why that was happening, because I felt very connected to my voice and to my throat chakra. But I mean, there's always more layers, right? There's always more layers. And it was through that physical pain and suffering and difficulty that I had to experience that I think so many more layers in my understanding of the voice and throat chakra emerged. And in particular, what it taught me in that healing, I've spoken about this in a lot of places, but I don't think I've mentioned this component, was the softening I had to do, the softening into that loving aspect of the goddess that I just spoke about.
Chills.
Yeah. It was like all of those places where I'd been so hard on myself and so, go, 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 high achieving, do this, do that, all of that, I had to just soften it. I didn't have to let it go because it's a part of who I am, but I did have to just give myself permission to rest. And in those places of rest, be in deep devotion to my throat chakra and to the healing of my voice every single day, working with healing mantras, working with chakra practices that really energized this center. And of course, there were the huge changes I had to make in my diet as well. I don't know if you want to talk about that. It might not be relevant for your podcast.
Oh, yeah. That is definitely relevant. I mean, I've had to make a lot of shifts around diet and hypothyroidism, and I'm still trying to figure all of that out and find out, through elimination what makes me feel better and worse. But I definitely think going gluten-free has had a major positive effect on me.
Wow. So yeah, I definitely did reduce gluten. But I had been a hardcore vegan for 10 years. And it wrecked my health. I mean, it is such a personal thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who thrive on that diet and have thrived on it for decades, but it didn't work for me.
Yep.
And I ate a very healthy vegan diet. So I had to incorporate a lot of animal products to see some results. Yeah. I don't know about you. I'm so curious to hear about your journey of healing your thyroid as well.
For me, it's so interesting too, because I do think there's really something to the eat right for your blood type theory. And I'm a type O, which is like the hunter-gatherer. So I really honestly, I'm paleo. I just couldn't imagine not having animal product in my life. I think, I definitely had tried, and there's times where I would go, vegetarian. I feel very good, but I really have to incorporate that, For me, I think a lot of this speaks to what I found very confusing was I was a singer, I was a performer, I'm a recording artist. I feel like my whole life is devoted to this chakra center. But personally, I was a mess as far as my boundaries, my ability to speak my truth, people pleasing, and then and the opposite side of that, really trying to control situations, and almost that hyper masculinity, that sort of toxic. I should stop using the word toxic, but that internal masculine that had to sort of control all my circumstances, and also a total go-getter, voraciously mission driven and stuff like that. And so when I got that diagnosis, I already was what is going on with me? I was 36 and I was having hot flashes and I just could not figure out what was going on with me. So it was like hitting a wall, it was like a major health crisis.
Oh, I so resonate with what you shared there. Yeah, it is like hitting a wall, isn't it? a major wake-up call.
Yeah.
To overhaul like so many aspects of lifestyle, stress. I mean, I think stress is such a big underlying cause of so many women's health. And because of these complex interactions between the thyroid and the womb, you know, it can be difficult to know, for myself at least, it was like, well, what's the root cause of my issues? Yeah. Is it my thyroid? Is it something happening in my womb? Is it something else in my diet or in my blood type, my genetic? I mean, it's so difficult to know where to start. So that's why those energetic practices were so key for me, to just actually bolster my faith and belief that I could heal.
And I know you have a self-study bundle on healing your thyroid as an offering on your website. Can you talk a little bit about that exploration for yourself? Is this something you developed over time or just by trying things out?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm very careful in the way that I share about it, that it's I love that you express that it's for healing the thyroid, because I think it is, in that a lot of women who've received it are on that journey, and that's my journey. But I you know, the way that I share about healing the throat chakra is that it's really for anyone who wants to work on healing this chakra as a whole and the underlying issues that are there. Yeah. And then if there are health issues that are resulting from that, there's likely to be a benefit, you know. But at this stage, it's very important for me to, I guess, just retain that sense of speaking to individual sovereignty in that, because this is what worked for me, but it's such an individual journey what will work for you or for anyone else. And I created that bundle that I think you're speaking to, which has like a beautiful mixture of, there's a meditation in there are practices in there are even some recipes in there. I created it as like an overall throat chakra healing. So if you do those practices and that underlying work, it will really support you to heal any difficult symptoms you're experiencing around your throat, whether that is thyroid or another throat chakra symptom or dis-ease, or whether there's an underlying emotional issue like you spoke to of, you know, not feeling empowered in your truth or setting your boundaries. These are such important underlying pieces that we have to look at before we can heal on a physical level. Absolutely. So that's the intention behind it. And it, you know, all of my teachings, they've been honed and developed now over many years of working with clients one-to-one and also in groups. I love to work in groups. I'm receiving the real-time feedback that people are sharing with me about how this is helping them to open their voice in new ways, to empower their channel and receive physical benefits as well.
Wow. I would love to talk about your group work and the Priestess Path. Is this a once-a-year training?
Yes. So I have this once-a-year training, which is, it is the training that I teach live as well. So it's a live group mentorship with me. And there's also an in-person element. You can come on retreat as well, although most of it is online. But I also have these self-study trainings that you can take at any time that are giving you the underlying core practices of this sacred voice, priestess path that I've developed. And they're really for anyone who is feeling called to work with their voice as a sacred instrument. So it is really not about how much singing experience you have or whether you think you have a good singing voice or not. It's about that underlying healing work that I spoke to, of really seeing what is holding you back in your expression and through the beautiful ceremonial invitations that we give you, dissolving and transforming that so that you can really embody that powerful true voice that is the voice of you. So yeah, my core training is the cosmic voice. This is a self-study training. And then the longer journeys are for those who want to really actually embody the path of the sound healer and do that work. So yeah.
I feel so passionate about spreading the message to women around opening the voice. And I find I myself am a holistic vocal coach. And what I noticed through time working predominantly with women was this amazing personal evolution and blossoming that was happening for these women. Like coming back for lessons and seeing how working with their voice was changing like all aspects of their lives, including like speaking up at work and getting promoted and their marriages improving. And it was almost like there was this wall over them and it had come down and they were being seen. And there's a lot of responsibility around that. And that can be really frightening for a lot of women and people in general. But for me, I see a vast benefit in that and working with the throat chakra. And I wonder if you could speak to that in your own work.
I think the biggest piece of this is giving ourselves permission. So as you said, it's like dissolving those layers so that you can just really blossom in new ways. And I think it's such a personal journey to touch into that place. But this is why I believe that voice work is a really core, important piece for most women, especially women on the priestess path who are rising into that leadership position in whatever way that is for them, because this is our center of self-expression. And if we're not feeling in integrity and authenticity with this, maybe because of conditioning we've received or our personal story of feeling repressed around our voice or ancestral work we have to do or lineage work on whatever level, you know, if we're not feeling in true expression around that, it's going to be really difficult for our sacred service to flourish in the ways that it could. Yes. So it's actually such a core piece. And I'm so just overjoyed by the fact that so many women are called to that path these days, and that there are many of us that are bringing forward this important work and sharing it in ways that can be received by women.
Wow, it sounds so beautiful. I'm now curious about the path because it just sounds so amazing, and I'm wondering what that transformation looks like for women over the year. It sounds like personal healing is a large aspect of the training.
It's a practitioner training, the priestess training. So it is a practical priestess training. So there are a lot of priestess trainings that are maybe more akin to my self-study courses in that they are really for that self-healing component. And that's a core component that can't be missed, right, when it comes to voice work and sharing your voice with the world. And then in this longer journey, what happens is women come in and they get to receive all of these incredible tools and practices around sacred sound, sound healing, working with their voice and with different instruments as well. And they get to discover how they want to bring sound into their ceremonial practice and into their work as a priestess more generally. So many women come in who have already taken a priestess initiation, who want to develop with sound, or perhaps are already a holistic therapist in some way. And others just feel the call, you know, and through the modalities that are shared, there's a complete practitioner initiation that does happen. So we have women who have taken the training, who have gone on to really create this as a sacred service, as a sacred business for themselves, which is so beautiful to see. And women who are taking it into their existing work, allowing it to blossom and become elevated to the next level of what their expression with their voice and sound could be. And we have women who are recording music and sound and sharing that, who are leading groups with their sacred sound healing practices. It's really diverse. It's really incredible to see. We even have some artists, you know, whose work has just amazingly flourished through the opening of the throat chakra. So yeah, I'm so proud of our Priestess of Sacred Sound collective. And I think one of the things about this training that makes it unique is that there's a real focus on individual gifts and skills, rather than like, this is the modality, you have to learn this, you know, this is the cookie cutter thing. Yeah. It's really about discovering your own path with sound, whether that's becoming a light language channel or focusing on the crystal singing bowls or singing and drumming and leading singing and drumming groups. Because all of these things are part of my expertise or part of the expertise of the guest teachers that we have come in. There's so much potential for what you can do with that training.
I wanted to talk about some of your channeled pieces, which I love, especially the Hathor and the Isis Magdalene pieces. They're so beautiful. And I was wondering if you could speak to the experience of channeling divine frequency or the goddess, or channeling sound with your voice.
Yeah. So this is something that has always been part of my priestess journey. Really, from that moment when I enrolled in my first priestess training, I felt songs coming through. And I had always loved singing. I'd always very much been a singer. I was super blessed to receive a lot of classical singing training growing up. And it had kind of fallen by the wayside as the scientific path had taken over. But I knew it was kind of there, just like a dormant thing within me. And as I began to develop my natural psychic gifts, it just started happening. And a lot of clients share this with me, that as they expand, especially in their upper centers, the third eye and the crown, and equally as they begin to really deeply work with grounding through the root and the sacral, they're actually able to expand in their capacity to hear frequencies from other dimensions and other beings.
My third eye is like itching and buzzing right now as we're talking about this. It's like so interesting.
Wow. Oh, amazing. So activating.
Yeah, very activating. Yeah. There's a huge component to really needing to ground that higher activated energy into the lower root chakra or lower chakras. And I find a lot of people on the path of awakening and spirituality, they want to live in like the upper realms. And the whole point of being here is like the body is the temple. It's the bridge for heaven on earth, and the gift of the body. And that means being, anchoring in, like being in the sacral, being in the root, and anchoring the soul in.
Yes, 100%. I completely agree. And I think this is a part that is often missed in a lot of spiritual trainings. And even in this modern day talk about ascension that is around a lot, it's like a real buzzword.
Yeah.
And we can only ascend as far as we've gone deep. Yeah. And we've gone down into our inner realms. And often that means excavating the darkness, what my teacher, Sally Pullinger, calls the underworld, you know, like really deeply being in that place, so that we actually have the emotional intelligence, capacity, and ability to hold ourselves in those places, which allows more divine light to shine in. And the more we block off and restrict those places, the harder it is to tap into our channel. Absolutely. So it's such a core foundational piece.
This was such a good conversation. I feel like I could talk forever with you. I'm wondering if we missed anything.
Have a look at your list. I think we covered a lot.
So you have a training coming up for the 6-month container, is that correct?
So our next 6-month container will begin in 2025. You can get on the wait list on my website. But right now, all of my other trainings are available as self-paced trainings. You can take them at any time. That Cosmic Voice 6-week training I spoke about is up on the website. And yeah, I'm so excited for more people to receive those trainings because they're available in that more accessible form. This is a really big evolution for me, actually. In the past, it would be like I would run a training live and then it wasn't available for another year. Then I would run it live again. And actually, it is hugely expansive to have those trainings available to you to take whenever you wish. And I always have a community element. So like with the self-paced training, you can still join an interactive sisterhood and ask me questions directly if you want to. It's a part of the training. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, so wonderful to have this conversation and explore these realms together. And I look forward to finding out more about your work and discovering the other episodes in this series.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, do you want to talk about your singing bowls, the alchemy bowls that are up on your website that you just put out? Did you develop those?
Yes. So this is
beautiful.
The next. Oh, I'm so happy you love them. Yeah, this is the next evolution because in my work, when I work as a sound healer and I offer sound baths, I always work with crystal singing bowls. They're such a pure frequency. And for anyone who's interested in sound healing, they are just such a good place to start because, you know, that pure healing frequency that they produce with the clear quartz ones specifically, so not the frosted ones, but like this is a clear quartz one that I'm holding now if you're watching the video. But it's infused with titanium, which gives it the color. And this was another instruction from Hathor, who is engraved on all of the bowls.
It's so cool. You see the sun.
Yeah, they're super magical in the sunlight. The instruction was to create an entire singing bowl set for Hathor, for sound healers and musicians, priestesses to use. So that's what they are. Shall I give this one a little play?
Yes, please.
So this is the F bowl, so attuned to the heart chakra.
And I just want to like all of a sudden sing, like I can feel my throat going.
Yeah.
Like, just wanting to make sound.
They're so activating for the voice. That's why I love to use them. That pure resonant chamber that they are is just so incredible. So yeah, this is a co-creation with a dear sister of mine, Akara Hart. We co-designed them, and yeah, we're sharing them, and yeah, we already have just received so much incredible feedback from those who've brought them into their life and their sound temples and are working with them. So yeah, such a pure, beautiful creation. I'm excited to share about.
Very exciting. Oh, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Elsa. It was such a lovely conversation. You can learn more about Elsa's work in the description below. Just click the link to her website, and that'll take you to all the magic, all the places. Until next time, keep turning on that heart light. The Heartlight Sessions podcast is executive produced and hosted by me, Janae Halstead. It's edited, mixed, and mastered by me too. And that theme song you hear, it's called Heartlight. And yep, you guessed it, it's from my record Disposable Love. Got questions about a certain healing modality? Or about heart-centered healing? Or maybe you just need some advice on life, love, or creativity? Send it my way. Email me at letters@heartlightpodcast.com. Until next time, I'm Janae Halstead, and thanks for listening to Heartlight Sessions. Turning on my heart light, 1,000 volts of sunshine.